The Marching Roundtable is proud to be an official media partner of Drum Corps International.
Thanks for coming to the Marching Roundtable YouTube channel, sharing great information to help you succeed in all the marching arts. While you're here, we hope you'll subscribe.
Like a last second shot or a walk-off home run or sinking a putt at the Masters, or how people have started this expression of boom, like when it happens, the thing that you want to happen when it comes to fruition, people will exclaim boom, so like
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
And so we had that. We had, of course there's the explosion part of it. And so we did dive into the kind of the atomic age, and that's what got us into this mid-century modern area and the retrofuturism,
Yeah.
because assigning it an identity. The retrofuturistic part of it too was interesting because there is something about the idea of looking at the future from the perspective of the past, and it helped us kind of create these loops in the show in terms of kind of setting. So like if you look at our first piece, that's kind of the current, that's now. And we tried to capture the suddenness of when you're not looking back and you're not planning, you're just experiencing it at the moment. And that's exactly how part one is set up. It just goes, and everything is just happening now. And then of course, when we go to part two, it's nostalgic. We go back.
Everybody, this is Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts. I'm talking with Keith Potter of the Boston Crusaders. Keith, how are you?
Great. How are you doing? Good to see
I'm
you.
great. It's one of the things I look forward to every summer. We've been doing this for many years now, where I get the great privilege of getting to talk to you as the season is getting going, and we're all excited about the new Boston show. And so how are you doing right now?
Good. Getting that first step out there. We had our first show a couple days ago. I think we've had two shows now. So, it's always that mad dash from the end of Winter Guard time. Of course, working on the production all, from September all through the winter. And
Sure.
but then really at the end of April, it starts to really kick up. And then we move into Vermont, my Bird's Eye Diner mug.
I love
And
that. I look forward to that mug every
and the
year too.
Vermont hat.
The Vermont hat. I bet it
Yeah,
was
I
nice
love
and cool
Vermont.
up there.
Oh, it was. And then this year was a little different because we're heading out west. So we did our 2 weeks ish in Vermont, and then we did like a week in Boston where we celebrated the 85th anniversary. We did some parades, concert in the park, and then the Corps got on planes and flew to Colorado,
Oh,
and
wow.
we did another 2 weeks ish in Colorado, finishing up our spring training, and then off to the first show at Fort Collins.
Man, I love
And
hearing that, because I was literally thinking like, oh my gosh, how much time did they lose if they're driving all the way across? Like that would be so much lost time. So I'm glad to hear that didn't happen.
no, it kind of felt. I mean, of course, the season is. I don't know when this started happening. Maybe last year, maybe after COVID. Um, but the season's a little bit later, so it worked out just fine. It felt like it was time to start having shows. And
Sure.
in the past, when we used to do the theater thing in the middle of June, it didn't feel like that. It felt like uh, it was a little frantic. So
Well, actually,
uh,
that leads me to my first thing I wanted to say, which is I've, of course, only seen the core show on video, so I have not been able to see it live, which is always frustrating with drum corps. But like the level of excellence is really ridiculous. Like this, I mean, it did not look like first performance of the season. It looked like week before finals. And I thought, how in the world? And I know that there's lots of reasons why the core is so good so early, but like it was so clean and the color guard was catching and tossing. I was astounded.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was the week before finals good,
Okay.
but
All right. All right.
but I mean, we did have a little bit extra time. The core is incredibly talented. The talent's been growing over the years. This is our for our team, our design team. This is our ninth year together, and
Oh, wow.
we've done seven, I think seven competitive shows and eight with the exhibition year. And then of course we lost one. So, but in terms of knowing each other, working together, and planning things out, um, and recruiting, and year over year kind of accumulation, and lessons learned, and all that stuff. So the core is super talented across all the sections. The staff is very deep. There's an expert for everything. Um, and it's a fun it's a fun exciting environment. But I will say, and I haven't gotten the chance to see a lot of other groups because of the mad dash to get out there, and then I was on an airplane and lost a couple
Sure.
of days of bad travel stuff, so haven't seen a lot. But from what I've been hearing is that the that performance level seems to be elevated across the board. So that's awesome, I'm sure, for the audiences
Oh,
and for
yeah.
everybody that's involved. The drum corps is a hard thing, so um, when it's really good, it's really a lot more enjoyable. So um,
Yeah.
I
And
think a lot of people seem to be experiencing that right now.
no, absolutely. And I felt that way last year as well. So it's exciting. Perhaps whatever is happening with the schedule and the spring training and the preparation over the winter and everything that you guys are doing now, all the cores are like really ready to go and exciting. And of course, Keith, I'm old enough that I remember way back in the 80s where we were out really early in June and sort of limping through the show and stuff like it was a completely different animal. But it's exciting to see, and it's wonderful, like you said, for fans to get to see the show really realized and well performed from the very beginning. That's what we all want. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and I'm the same. I marched a million years ago, and we would go out and do not even our whole show, and that was totally normal. And if you did make it through the whole show, there would be choreography that was missing, and um, you know, what I like about it, and it's a little bit more like how what I experience in the winter season with winter guards is that you kind of you work and you work and you work and you try to get a draft out there that has um, some kind of second and third level of depth, and then you work it from there. And that's what's fun about the drum corps season, like it is now, is that we can get out there and get the second or third layer of depth going so that you could kind of enjoy it more than just on its face level or face value. But then where you can go from here is a lot more exciting because you're not still, as the shows are starting, you're not still trying to wrap up that first round of stuff. You're producing as you go, and the producing just keeps going, and the revisions and the edits and that's such a big part of it, for everyone. Is how can you create entertainment in June that's of value to anyone, and then keep ramping it up, so that it grows, and there's a little bit of dynamic quality to the production, so that people that see it over and over can continue to see it grow, and the performers that are performing get to uh, experiment, experience and experiment with new things throughout the summer. So, um, yeah, I think that the whatever the timing thing that has gone on this year has been pretty comfortable.
Well, it's amazing you guys have another fantastic production. I do want to mention that there are a lot of drum corps out there that don't get quite the advantage of quite so much of a head start. And we all need to be patient and kind to them as they are still sort of putting their show together as the competitive season starts. Not everybody has the same exact schedule, but it's very exciting to see a corps like Boston just come out, you know, everything's on fire and going 100 miles an hour. And I really love it. The other thing I love, Keith, is like, I don't know, like you guys have a knack for doing this anyway, but I felt like this year it was like as soon as I saw it and I saw the prop and I saw the title and I knew exactly what you were doing. It was super clear to me. I wasn't scratching my head. I was like, "Oh, I get it." And I get the sort of the vibe and the time frame and like all of that was I was very excited because Keith, I love a show that makes me feel smart, like I like to be able to feel like I know what is happening. And I have a really hard time with shows where I have no idea what's going on. So your show made me feel really smart from the very beginning. And sort of the sensibility and the style of it is so like fun and cool. Like I was just all about it. And I'm like I said, I'm watching on video. So
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's good. That's good to hear that it's resonating and that it's clear enough
yeah.
to pick up what's happening stylistically. I mean, the you start with in September with a word like boom, and you know, and I'm sure everybody does this. You kind of collect your the beauty of having the phone now with the Notes app is like anytime you have an idea, you're just making lists of stuff so that when you get together and it's time to go, you can you can have some place to start from. And that was a word that was on the list, and um, I think what initially was where that initially came from. I don't know if you want to talk about this right now, but
Sure,
I'm
no,
kind
go
of
for
jumping
it.
ahead.
I'm very
You brought
interested.
you,
I
you
love
brought up
hearing.
the yeah.
No, I love hearing
Um,
about the process. So please do.
yeah.
So it started with the
So
word.
well, it started with the word because I was just, and I'm not speaking for everybody because I'm sure that there are a lot of designers on the team, and everybody. Some of the things we do are we come to together, and some of the things, depending on what the musical role or a visual role or color guard or drill or whatever, people certainly have their own way of interpreting and bringing their own artistry to it. So I'm only speaking for myself unless I unless I touch on something specifically that um, that we've discussed as a team. But the uh, the word I was thinking back to the previous year. This was like kind of at the end of the summer and beginning of the fall, and was thinking about glitch and what I liked and what I felt was successful and difficult and easy about that. And one of the things was that the word glitch had a really good connection to visual and sonic um, interpretations. And then, there was depth from there that we had to search for and find and create. But the starting point, I really liked the idea that there was a sound associated with a glitching component, and there's a visual identity associated with glitch. And I started trying to think of words that were like that, just to see if there was anything else like that. Boom's not exactly the same way, but the word Sonic was stuck in my head, and it brought up the Sonic Boom concept. And uh, so we talked a little bit about that, and that eventually shifted into just Boom, and then kind of finding all these other iterations of Boom. One of the exciting was being from Indiana, being a Pacers fan. Um, the back at least couple decades back when Reggie Miller played for the Pacers, and we were all young and excited about watching Reggie play. But there was an announcer in the arena that every time a shot was made, he would yell "Boom, baby!" and and it kind of reminded me that like that excitement and exhilaration and kind of rallying around like in a sports event or some sort of competition when like a last second shot or a walk off home run or sinking a putt at the Masters or how people have started this expression of boom, like when it happens, the thing that you want to happen when it comes to fruition, people will exclaim boom, so like like
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Um, and so we had that. We had, of course, there's the explosion part of it. And so we did dive into the kind of the atomic age, and that's what got us into this mid-century modern area and the retrofuturism,
Yeah.
because assigning it an identity. But when I was researching the atomic age, it also happened to bring up pages about baby boom and baby boomers,
Oh.
and so there's there's a whole other expression of boom about rapid expansion um, and growth. And so there was that could be that we could tap into. Not necessarily like a population boom, but it could be a business or you know, it could be any kind of expansion or growth. So there's all these kind of positive, kind of exciting or like proactive things associated with boom. And again, of course, the explosion is probably the one that comes to mind most. And you know that just the idea of being able to do something that's explosive in our activity, like sudden and unexpected. Um, that's kind of also all these things kind of started to create the shape of what each piece is in the show. And but yeah, I mean, it all just came from the word, and it kind of attached itself to the atomic age, and then all these other kind of iterations of boom, and it just took a lot of kind of churning and assigning and what could this be and how could we show that, and um, the retro futuristic part of it too was interesting because there was something about the idea of looking at the future from the perspective of the past, and it helped us kind of create these loops in the show in terms of kind of setting. So like if you look at our first piece, that's kind of the current, that's now. And we tried to capture the suddenness of when you're not looking back and you're not planning, you're just experiencing it at the moment. And that's exactly how part one is set up. It just goes, and everything is just happening now. Um, and then of course when we go to part two, it's nostalgic. We go back, and we go back to that time period. We go back
Yeah.
to that atomic age. And one of the other things that we found as we were doing a lot of this research was the emotion of the time was so optimistic in terms of technology and innovation, inventors and artists thinking about this future of flying cars and robots and no pollution, and at the same time they're like this atomic age, Cold War kind of gloom and doom looming
Yeah.
over the culture. And we that the emotion in that also was interesting, and how we could kind of play into that. um I forget what I was going to say. There was oh, that's what I was going to say. Part two, when it goes back, it's really fun and it's really exciting, and it's the exotica music of the time. And that music, a lot came from the wanting to escape the doom.
Right.
It was like it was the optimist. It was and it's the way that the art, it's the way that the shapes, it's the way the architecture was. All of that was like to relieve anxiety.
Yeah.
And so, for us, that second piece it's kind of the signature of the time. It's like it is the actual literal music of the time. So, and that was really fun too, because not really seeing or hearing that a lot, in our activity. And so it was fun, I think, for the music team. I know talking with Ryan and Tom Hannum and Colin and Ian and Zellers, and talking with those guys about creating that sound um, was exciting. But really, that comes again from the era and the emotion to juxtapose the optimism of the future and what could be with the kind of the anxiety of the day.
Yeah.
Um, and so the music created that.
Well,
Um,
I that part really resonated with me, and it did feel like fresh for drum corps. Like I
yeah,
thought, okay, this is such a great idea because I know exactly what this is. I'm loving it. It's taking me to a time and a place that I don't see a lot on the field. I think it's kind of tricky, actually. Like I think you guys are doing a little sleight of hand with it that is just brilliant because it's so accessible. I don't know. Like I just really resonated with that. I loved the colors, the props with the atomic, like all of it made sense to me, and I thought, man, I like this. Like I want to spend time here. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I just think it's a home run for you guys, and I love that that's part of the show.
yeah. Thanks. It has been fun. It has been, um, I don't know, it's just been different. It's just kind of a little bit different process and trying to find, as I think, again, in each of our different design jobs on the team, for me, um, every season brings a different impetus to what it becomes. And this one's just different. It was just like we kind of came at it from a different place. And a lot of it had to be uncovered in the production part. Like Michael Townsend has done just some crazy stuff with producing not only the color guard, but with the brass and percussion too, of kind of bringing some of the personality and the different concepts to the different parts of the show. And um, some of the this always happens, but like this seems more so that like being in the production part of it and creating the choreographic moments and the events fed back into what could this what could this lead to bigger conceptually. So it was like usually the concept kind of feeds that part. um, I'm sure it goes both ways, but it definitely feels like the production part is feeding the concept too. um, Maybe more so a little bit this year. And so as we go, the show becomes a little bit more clear, um, and answers questions about what's next, um, for for the different people that have different parts in the timeline of creating. Um, so it's been a little bit different like that.
I love that
But
you're describing that. It's one of the things that's so amazing about drum corps is that you have this sort of ability to workshop and figure out and have things happen, happy surprises and accidents that suddenly lead you somewhere. I think that, we don't have that opportunity in marching band usually. Like we just have to put the show on the field and pray. So and maybe not at the highest level, but for most marching bands. But I love that that's part of the drum corps experience. Can you give me an example? I love that you just described that. Is there anything specific that you can point to, like something that happened that led during the production that led to, oh wow, this is making me go here and I didn't expect that. Do you remember any specifics?
you know, I, I mean, I don't know if this is going to explain exactly um, that,
It's
but it
okay.
might. When we were doing part two stuff over the winter, it was so exciting to listen to the music. The Ema Sumac and the Les Baxter stuff was just so much fun. And we have the little pizzicato section in the middle of it
Yeah.
that it just everybody's tight in one little spot. Everything is tight and short, doing the iterations of the same choreography between the guard, the brass, and the percussion. Um, and when we first put this out on the field, because it didn't feel like we should be marching a ton in that. It definitely felt like it needed a lot of personality and production. And the first night that we did it in Vermont, uh, I was like, yeah, we gotta have some stuff work to do on this. And then within the next 2 days, the color guard and the brass, percussion, and everybody started getting one choreographic nugget after another, or even a whole produced event that started to change it started to change from this being music of the era um, to a signature personality within this show on the field. Um, and if you see it live, you'll see more of this stuff. But there's so
Sure.
many. There's a really cool place where the brass marches on their knees across, like they're going across yard lines, marching on their knees, and it because of what is being played there, and because of how it's um, choreographed and composed with where how the color guard's integrated and the percussion uh, is doing this stylistic thing with cowbells right behind it. It makes it so you can see all of that stuff and you can understand the personality because of that. But also the the actual choreography has a personality too that is fun and um, relieves that anxiety. So it's like that producing and I mentioned the pizzicato thing, same thing. Like seeing that come to fruition was like, this is really of the time. It's speaking to the concept, but it's also um, creating its own personality in the show itself. And so that's what I mean. Like those things feed um, they feed the character of the show and of the performers. And what could be like, oh, this is a fun jazz tune, um, which it is fun, but there is a lot of effort and depth in what the all the choreographers and people that have produced it have put together. It's really there's a lot there. Um, so I think it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to watch. Um, Sorry, you probably hear my dog barking. Must be the
No,
mail.
actually, I don't hear it at all. So, but if it's
Um,
mealtime, that's exciting time for dogs. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
no, I mean, I
Um,
love that you're describing that because I mean, that's what you're describing is sort of the way I reacted just watching the show on video. I thought, man, this is fun. And I got to tell you, Keith, I think fun is really hard to do in marching shows of any kind. I think it's really hard. And like, I felt like this is working because of the excuse me, of all the layers. Like I
mhm.
like how it looks and I love in the music, and then I get what this looks like makes sense for like the whole world you created during that part ticked off boxes in my head that made sense, and I loved it. So I can't wait to see that again.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of little treats in there. There's like a tuba feature that ends on a high note on tuba instead of a low note.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But that person ends up in the splits playing the high note and then puts down his tuba and stands up and catches a rifle and then throws the rifle to another person. So it's just like little surprises like that that make that piece have I think the character that the show needs. It would be tough to do that mid-century modern thing, I think, as an aesthetic only and not touch on the actual uh, music of the culture of the day.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Uh, and some of that music is just it's intense. I mean, you listen to the original stuff, it's intense, but what Ryan and Colin and that team did with it for drum corps is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it, and um it's playful in a way that I totally got, and that whole mid-century modern futurism thing to me is just so interesting. I want to on that point, I love the way the core looks, what they're wearing. And of course, Fred J. Miller, as always, did a phenomenal job for you guys. But like, that was so, like, it made sense to me, and it added so much to what you just described because of the colors and the design. Like, I just felt like that was another home run for you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, Michael, FJM and Michael Cesario are
Sure.
incredible
Yeah.
at all the work that they do. But, back in September, uh, Michael, when Michael and I are setting up our first phone call, I think I sent him an email of this is what we're thinking. And, you say mid-century modern to Michael, and he just there was no stopping him. It was like
Right. Right.
he was excited. I was excited about what he was sharing. Um, yeah, it's such a strong look, and his experience with show business in general over time, and and academically, he's studied it, he's been part of it. I mean, this was an easy one. I'm sure I say easy. I'm sure nothing's easy when when you're designing all of that and producing all of that, and your timelines, and there's other groups, but
Well, it's easier if you're excited and you love the idea and
yeah,
you think like, oh
yeah,
wow, I haven't done this,
yeah.
perhaps.
We definitely weren't like, I wonder. He went pretty fast right away. So yeah, it's yeah. I was in Fort Collins last week. I've lost track of time. I don't even know when it was,
It doesn't matter. It's
but
fine.
I think it was a couple days ago. And we did a dress rehearsal before the show. It was the first time, and it just when everything came in, they were doing practice like walk on field, and everything came in with all the silver props and the silver jackets and the color guard and all the bright um, colors of that time, and the print quality and the design of the print that I think Scott Winters was a part of. Um, Not a part of, did. Um,
Yeah, it's
and
great stuff.
he's got such a good technique and ability and talent for that. And but all of it just, I'm sitting up at the top of the stadium and I'm looking at it like as if I was in the front row. You could see the detail and the color and the contrast between the guard and the brass and percussion. So yeah, it was exciting to see all of that.
Well, I love the way it looks and I love how it contributes, especially to that section you were talking about. Um, the sort of throwback that like that just to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun watching this right now. I loved it. Those silver props with the spikes with the balls on the end, like that's so iconic to the time period. And the thing I love, Keith, and listen, everybody listening, this is you need to watch this show for this specifically, but like to me, the sign of a great show is you use the prop in every way I could have thought of, and then like 10 more ways that I never could possibly have imagined you were going to do. And like I felt like you did that. Like it kept being deconstructed, and then all kinds of cool things were happening. And I thought, this is how you're supposed to do this, people. Like it's not just sitting out there, but you've used it in a multitude of ways that I never could have thought of, it seemed like.
Well, it's interesting. Of course, this is Jeff Herr and Chris Lewis, make those props for us. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, one of the charges was, we want basically a Swiss Army prop. Like this thing can it can look like decoration because that's part of the era. Is just that it
Oh yeah.
could just be sitting in a hotel lobby.
Yeah, like you see that up on the wall, the
Yeah,
clock with the spike. I mean, I totally understood
right.
what that was. Yeah.
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 But then, you know, can we take the arms out and use them to manipulate um, like guard equipment, and then can the orb on the top come off and roll around like like we could create shooting stars, um, and then can the big sphere be taken off and rolled like like these are um, you know some sort of expanding planets in a universe, or um, a key there. You'll see in the show there's a lot of like either a countdown or a fuse, or a heartbeat, something that creates the anticipation of the boom, which is still a macro thing that we're still working toward. But those act as kind of larger scale, um, I guess, tipping points, or you think like of pinball kind of hitting something and causing a chain reaction. It's that kind of an implement. Like currently what we're doing with them right now. At the end, it kind of creates the ending boom. Um, but like I said, there's more to come on how those will be used in the macro scheme of the end of the season. Um, but yeah, the idea of then once the prop is unassembled or taken apart, um, then we're able to kind of create a two-dimensional surface, because another part of that era is just like like textiles and tabletops, and tiles, and where they have these bursts on them as like a, a design element motif. And so once we take these apart and they get used, then they get put back together on this two-dimensional surface to create what is almost looks like a flat piece of art or a
Cool.
tabletop
Yeah.
of that time, but also um, kind of resembles like stars in the sky, because there is a component to that. As I was kind of telling you about the current and the past, there's also a what is yet to come. And in the ballad, which is the third piece, um, that is the Once Upon Another Time by Sarah Bareilles, and it really is about imagination and wonder and nostalgia and thinking ahead to what comes next. Just the idea about Once Upon Another Time, we thought was really cool how it connected to the retrofuturism, where like you're looking at the future from the past, but now you're in this time and you're looking back, and you're at this time and you're looking what's next in your life, what are the next steps, what's even in an existential way, what's next, So that ballad ends up kind of being like the magical portal to all of these places that we can go. And so there is that kind of, we kind of imagined it like a night sky, like sitting on the hood of your car in the desert, kind of looking up at the stars and thinking of all of this stuff. Um,
Yeah. I love
and
it.
and that the melody of that piece has that kind of um, nostalgia and what's next happening all at the same time. So
I
maybe
love
a
it. You
little,
know,
maybe too far on that, but
no, I love
yeah,
it. Thank you for sharing all this. I think people are really interested to hear it. I'm certainly really interested in hearing this. I have to tell you that I have been around long enough that I'm going to now date myself. But all right, see if you can. Everybody, bear with me. But I remember sitting in the stands at the drum corps show in 1985, and the Cavies came out. Sorry, Cavaliers. They like to be heard said, and Cavaliers came out doing Mars, and the guard danced with these red balls, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And still to this day, like that's on my list of things I love from drum corps shows. Like just this super masculine guys, and it was the first year they had those, the green with the epaulets. Like they had this whole new look, was super masculine and cool. And like so, as soon as I saw that you guys were using these balls as part of your show, I just got so excited because like this is like an iconic thing for me. So I'm just sharing that because it throws me right back to Cavaliers '85. Everybody, I have lots of stories about that drum corps show, which I will not bore everybody with. But I actually sat in the stands next to George Zingali, which was a whole another experience into itself. I'll
yeah,
tell that story some other time. But anyway, I love that that's like it made sense to what you're doing, but like I love that. Those I'm assuming those are maybe rhythmic gymnastics
they are.
balls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones that yeah, they kind of like the orbs that are on the actual props. They're like metal cages. They have stuff inside of them. Uh,
Cool.
again, to be uh, continue to be developed, but they could be a little bit painful to to uh, to use the way that we're using them for the guard.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, so we did a little bit of research and found that kind of this ideal gymnastics ball that it's got a good grip. It's not too big. You can still see it. It came luckily came in kind of this metallic silver that matched the rest of the stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's fun. It's just another fun implement. Um, and kind of being able to explore choreography in a different way because both hands are involved. Um, you know, even if the equipment's in one hand, the uh, the ball is in the other hand, and the ability to kind of juggle those skills was just something that we were really interested in trying to see what that would be like. And they're doing great with it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm assuming that's one of those things that looks easy, but it's not easy at all. Like, how do you clean something like that? I mean, it's just miraculous to me that it's already as clean as it is because I think that that's Like it's one of those things that people just don't think about, but I think it's so difficult. Actually, it's probably true with those hoops last year too. But I feel like these are, like how do you get everybody to throw at the exact same height? So I mean, that seems really hard to do.
Yeah, I mean this is a little bit more intricate than the hoops for sure because it's like although I guess they were spinning when they were using the hoops too, um but yeah, this is just a little bit more like equal scale to the saber, you know.
Right, right.
And of course the dancers dance with them too, and they go back and forth and they roll them and throw them and but yeah, it is another kind of fun. It's like again like a lot of personality in that second piece,
Yeah.
and it's just um, another visual implement of what we're hearing in that piece.
And of course, I have to mention the very cool, unbelievably talented baton twirlers. Um, and I have a guess about where these individuals came from, but like, do you want to speak to that? Because I thought like, um, I was just like, well, of course. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like, wait a minute. Like, I was just like, oh, you made it all make sense so much, Keith. I'm sorry I keep saying that, but like, I was like, well, this makes sense. And they're so talented.
Yeah, um, gosh, I'm probably not the best person to speak on this because I kind of was getting the information uh, from Michael and Heather about, hey, this is who joined the guard. They made the guard and they have these skills and talents. We'd like to use them. And it was like, yeah, why wouldn't we? Um, let's find a spot. Let's find a space that makes sense. And um, it seemed like we're using them in part three, which is the Once Upon Another Time piece. And I feel like there's kind of like I said, that piece is and continuing to blossom into um, kind of a more magical, timeless. Speaking of all the time and the ticking and the heartbeats and all that, but a kind of a timeless, magical um, experience. Again, like I kind of think of it as looking up at the universe and kind of taking inventory of all that you've known and all that is yet to come. And but it seemed like there was a classic nostalgic place that would get its um, proper stage for that in that piece. And so we talked about it, and we actually have two baton twirlers, and they play off of each other. Yes, they are from Hamachi,
That's why I assumed
which
that,
yeah,
that's so
yeah, but
wonderful.
yeah, and I did not know that. I mean, of course, I had worked there many years ago, and still obviously a huge fan and a huge fan of everybody that still works there. And um, but yeah, once I learned all of that, then it was just working with Michael and Heather on best, like what's possible, what are the best uses, where and how, what can they do, and of course Heather has a background in baton, but they did bring over their their coach from Japan to work with them just a couple of days when we were in Colorado, just to um, kind of dial it in. Like they all work together all the time, so they know how.
Yeah.
They could see what we were doing, and how and where things fit, and um, they were able to enhance what was already going on. So it's cool, yeah, kind of a cool thing.
It's very cool. And like, there's all these unbelievably talented people contributing, and I guess that's true of all the drum corps, but I don't know. It's just very cool, to see all performers and designers and educators at this level, and then we all get to thrill at what ends up being put together. How fun for you to get to where, obviously, you've done this for many, many years, but I mean, do you ever like pinch yourself and think like, man, I just like look at these people around me and look at these members and what they can do, and it's quite astounding.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are on staff were all old friends from before even working on this,
Sure.
and certainly have grown more together over the last 9 years. Um, but yeah, and the performers, and it's hard. I feel like it's a little bit harder. My role is usually a little bit more coordinating things with the staff. I do try to go down and work on the field sometimes, but I don't do it as often as I would really like. So my experience with the performers is almost like a fan because I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
we are a part of the same team, but um, I'd be lying to say that I knew them well enough um, to explain or understand anything that they're doing, except that just watching how talented and listening to how talented and how efficient and well rehearsed and um, those kinds of things are you don't even you don't even stop and go, I wonder if we can do this. It's almost to the point of like if we can dream it,
Right.
they're going to figure out how to do it, um, or they already know how to do it because they're that talented and that dedicated to it. And of course, there's a lot of people on the staff that actually, when there's things that we can't do yet, help them learn how. So it's uh, it's yeah, it's kind of it is definitely things that you take for granted is like um and maybe you as opposed to like even working with a high school group or a group that you're just starting is just the free flowing of like it's hard enough to come up with a plan. It's so nice to not have to come up with a plan and then have to change it because it's going to stop at the performer
Right.
level.
Right.
It just
Right.
rarely does.
Right.
It rarely does. And I from watching other drum corps, I am sure that uh, there are many other people that, being sitting in my seat would say the same thing
Sure. Oh yeah.
about their drum corps.
Yeah.
Um, but you get really proud of it. It's your team. So yeah,
Well, you should be
and
really
it's
proud.
yeah,
I mean, you should be really proud of what the core is and what they're doing and what the experience you're giving those members, Keith, is, that was the other thing I thought as I was watching the show, I was like, obviously for me, it's always like, well, this is a show I want to do and I want to teach and I want to like it's like how would you not want to be a part of this show, And that to me is another feather in your cap because the whole team did that, put together something that is like, well, they're gonna have a blast all summer. This is gonna be so much fun. How and you can tell that there's so much joy coming off the field already from the performer. So, my hat's off to you and thank you for giving everybody on that whole team such a great experience. It's just, you should be really proud of what you're creating on all those levels.
yeah. I mean, it is not an accident that from the top down, from our board to our administration to everybody that works is like that the ability to enjoy the experience is number one on the list of what
Sure.
are we going to do next.
Sure.
So it's not, it doesn't always work out, but you hope it does. And when you have that many people working on it um, with that goal in mind, more likely than not, it's going to create that experience that you're hoping for.
Sure.
The competitive part, I don't know, the artistry of it, you hope, but the experience and the ownership that the group takes, um, being a huge positive experience is, it's a critical part of the first step of September meetings.
Well, you and I are talking on July 2nd, which is very early in the season. You said you're headed back out Sunday, I believe you said, to meet the core again. So what's happening next? This is sort of as I'm wrapping this up, I'm just interested,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
where are you
No,
next in the season?
I'm going to Stanford. I've never been to that show. Um,
I talked to
the
Don Click the other day. He told me that's his favorite drum corps show ever. It's
Yeah,
supposed to be a great venue.
yeah, I've never been, and I've only heard how much fun everybody has when they go, and I don't often go to a lot of shows. Once spring training is over and the show is on the road, I usually have always scheduled myself when we have more rehearsal time, because it just makes sense to go when we can make edits or revisions or the next part of the plan. Um, so the Stanford show is Sunday. Monday, Tuesday we have 2 production days without shows and without travel, and so
Makes
most of the
sense.
team will be there,
Great.
and that will be the next implementation of you know the plans that we have to get us to the end of the year.
Yeah, and how fun for California audiences and fans to get to see Boston live. I love that there's a core that shows up out there each year, and I love that this show is going out there. I'm sure it's going to be really well received. How fun for all those California fans.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, Keith, thank you for talking to me. Amazing work. I'm such a fan of the show, and I love the whole mid-century futuristic vibe. Like to me, I'm all about it. Like I got it immediately, and I loved it, and I can't wait to see how the show develops and continues to grow throughout the season. I hope you have a great, great summer, and good luck to you and the whole team.
Thanks. Good talking to you.
Thank
Marching Arts Education is the home of the Marching Roundtable podcast. We give you access to the top marching arts professionals through live webinars, podcasts, videos, interviews, and online coursework. With over 1,000 podcasts and hundreds of webinars and videos, there are hours of great professional development for you and your staff. Imagine what you could do with so many great new ideas from the top professionals in our activity. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter to find out about the latest podcasts, webinars, and new content. Find all of this and sign up at marchingartseducation.com.